Amstel Dock. Okay, we can check. Okay, I think the social hub. Yes. I have an appointment with Jeroen Brandwacht. Made me curious about it.
Pitch a few ideas.
Jeroen, how are you, champ?
Hey man.
You good?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Amazing. Thanks
Welcome.
for having us.
Yeah,
that's
of course.
it. This is the magic place.
This is where the magic happens for TSH, at least in the support hub. The actual magic happens in the hotels, but I can give you a little bit of an idea.
Let's do it.
Of what the headquarters look like. Yeah, my name is Jeroen Brandwacht. I'm 40 years old and I'm the head of talent acquisition at the Social Hub. We're a hybrid hospitality company, and I've been the head of talent acquisition here for 2 years now. I started my career in a recruitment agency, which I think is a very good starting point as a recruiter, because recruiting is not just finding jobs for people, but it's actually filling roles and adding business value. I think this is always really nice when we come in. This is basically, well, everybody that works here. They get their photo taken, so we make things sort of personal, right? And community building is really important for the Social Hub.
These are everyone who's in the office.
Should be.
Okay.
I mean, there's give or take a couple people, of course, because not everybody feels comfortable being in front of a camera, whether it's a video camera or a photo camera. Yeah. But everybody is invited to get their photo taken and then put on this wall. I think this is one of my favorite rooms, actually.
Okay.
Because this is the sample room. So, as you know, of course, we're a hotel company.
Yes.
So we have hotels and we also build our hotels ourselves.
Yeah. Completely, from the scratch?
Yeah, most of them we do. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is where we sort of sample and put the hotels together. So this is a hotel that opened in San Sebastian a couple of years back already.
Okay.
And then we tried out sort of what looks good together, what kind of material we're going to use. And you definitely see overlap. But you also see clear differences between, for example, San Sebastian.
This one is new one. This is something which is coming, right?
Glasgow opened a year and a half ago. Edinburgh is soon
that one.
to open.
Cool.
Soon to open. We're going to start construction, I think. So that's going to happen in the next years, I guess.
How many hotels do you already have?
21.
21
in 8 countries, I think.
Okay.
We're moving fast.
Wow. Yeah, this is cool. And how many people?
In total, around 1,300 people.
Okay.
So we're becoming quite big. So 250 are in the support hubs, so here and in Barcelona. And then around 1,000 are in our operations, which actually is where the magic happens, because that's where we receive our guests, etc. For receiving guests, this is really important. So this is revenue management.
Okay.
We want to build a community around our hotels and create a better society, is what we say.
Okay.
But of course, we are also a commercial company, so we have to sell our rooms as well.
Definitely.
And they make sure that we have the best rates for our rooms.
Okay, this is cool.
Yeah, so it's really nice. And what's also perhaps interesting to tell is that we're also partly a real estate company. So where you often see that hotels, especially hotel companies, rent a hotel, they're basically doing the operations. We also own the properties. So we have a big real estate.
Is this the case for all of the 21 buildings?
Not all of them, but the majority. That's sort of the aim typically. It's not always possible, that's what we aim for. So we have a big real estate team here. So there's real estate and also a bit of the interior design. Because we really sort of care for our properties, because we build them ourselves and then also decorate them from scratch. So that's really, I think, different from a lot of other hotels. Then we have finance over there and tax and legal over there. And one thing I think is nice to show, because what I mentioned before, we say we want to create a better society. And that's not just a catchy marketing phrase, but it's actually something that we really do, because we also support 2 foundations. And one is Movement on the Ground, where every year, at least a couple of times, we go to Lesbos and then actually support people there, sort of refugees. So this is one of the foundations that Charlie really closely supports as well. Wow. And we also have the Talent Foundation, and that's a foundation that supports people that don't have the means to study themselves, for example. That we give them a grant, for example, or we help them in their study efforts, so they also have a good opportunity on the job market. So,
super cool.
That's really cool. It's just it's really cool to see that it's not just greenwashing, but it's actually something that we live by as well. So that's
what's the story behind this?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's just, I mean, we are very inclusive.
That's it.
And I think that's also something that, for example, a lot of companies join Gay Pride, right? Pride Week. And then that's 1 week a year.
Yeah.
For us, it's just come as you are, and that's just really important. So that's also why
Okay.
we have art in every shape and form as well.
Super cool. Okay.
And this is, of course, also a very important team because we call it community advisors, but they're basically our customer service team. They both help our guests if they have any questions, but that's also where we, for example, sell group travel as well. So it's a really, really important team because in the end, everything that we do, of course, is for our guests. Because without guests, then...
How many guests you can fit into the 21 hotels we have?
Oh.
If that's going to be like a max capacity.
I think probably on average we have like 500 rooms per hotel. Some of them are a little bit smaller, some of them are a little bit bigger. So let's say 2 people can fit in a room. But that's, I mean, there's of course, that's part of what we offer, right? We're partly partly student housing, but also we have hotel rooms. So that makes it a bit different because typically a student sits in a hotel by him or herself.
Yeah.
Let's go in here. Okay. But if you're a hotel guest, for example, I slept in a room with my family, which is my wife and 2 children. Yeah. And then 4 people are in one room, right? So in that sense, occupancy is difficult to really say how many people can fit. But on average, like I said, I think we have around 500 rooms per hotel.
We know the story about the social hub a bit, that you're here, and we're going to talk about it a bit more. But I guess what is very interesting for me to start with, it's your background. Yeah. How you even ended up in the recruitment.
I think, as a lot of us in the TA space, I ended up in recruitment. It wasn't like an active career choice per se. After my studies, I started applying. I studied for a long time, so my CV at the time probably wasn't the most appealing for a lot of employers. But a recruitment agency in the Bild, in the middle of the Netherlands, gave me the opportunity to learn and hone my recruitment skills there, which I didn't enjoy fully, as in it wasn't my environment. But I did learn a lot of valuable recruitment skills, I think, and then I went in-house afterwards. So yeah, I just ended up in recruitment, but I think I'm pretty good at it, and that's why I stayed in recruitment. I really enjoy it.
Okay. And before the social hub, it was the Debt.
Yeah. So I started at a recruitment agency, then went to Travelbird. Okay. Online traveling agency, a big playground startup. I still speak to some of the people that are there. Some of the people actually that were there are now here. Okay. So it was a nice tight-knit community. Then I went to Bunk. Very interesting, to say the least. And then I went to Debt for 6 years. Okay. And I'm now here for 2.
Okay. What made you actually this shift towards the social hub?
So I was at Debt for 6 years. 3 of those, I was the manager of the recruitment team. And after 2.5 years, they started having some problems. They felt the influence of the war in Ukraine. So it was more difficult to get marketing budget from clients. So I started to have to let people go. And you also saw it in budgets. So that was one. The other reason I think that was important is that team at a certain point was really like a machine almost. Everybody knew what to do. I had 4 leads reporting into me. I would just sort of discuss with them what needed to happen and they would just do it. It was sort of every change that I wanted to make was upgrading an iPhone 14 to an iPhone 15. Not those big changes, right, that you can also sometimes make and the impact that you can make with those changes. And when I was contacted by the recruiter from the Social Hub that said like, hey, we need a new head of TA, they told me like, hey, here there's a basis, but there's so much more that you can still do. And that really sort of hit home with me. So that's the reason why I accepted the invitation.
Everybody gonna see that, man. But super interesting. How is the chemistry in the family? Because you both are actually in the HR space, in the people space, yeah?
Yeah, no, I mean that's great because you really understand what the other is doing, right? Okay. Often, when one is in development and the other is, I don't know, in tax or in legal, then it's 2 worlds apart. We understand each other's language. And I also often ask my wife for advice, like, hey, this is a certain case, a performance case, for example. How would you approach this? So for me, she's also a sounding board in that sense. We don't talk about work too often because we still also are in a relationship. But it definitely helps to have somebody that understands what you do.
Okay. And when it comes to the talent acquisition and also the HR, like the overall people department, is this something you see that it's going to merge with all these technology evolving now?
It's difficult. I mean, I find always those questions. I find always very hard to answer because during COVID, recruiters were the most sought after profile, and now it's difficult if you lose your job as a recruiter to find a new job. So, it's the speed at which things are changing is so difficult to then predict things. If I had to predict and look at my glass ball, like, hey, is this going to happen? I don't think so per se. I think the people that are in talent acquisition versus that are in HR ops or in an HRBP role are just different profiles, different people with different talents and also different ambitions. Okay. So only for that reason, I think it's going to be difficult to really do that. So my answer to that would be probably not. Okay. I do think that it's important to break the silos more, because what I see here, and I saw that at my previous company as well, you often see a very siloed approach where you have your talent acquisition partner that does an intake and finds somebody, then it goes over to HR ops that does the contracting, and then it goes to a people partner, as we call them here, HRBP, that does performance management and keeps people here and keeps them happy, etc. And I think if you tie those more together, you have a way stronger advisory role towards the business, and also a way stronger position in the company as well. Okay.
And is this the case for all the companies you see, like they have to be in the place of the advisory role more?
Yeah, that's definitely how I coach the people in my team, my teams also at Adept. I think what recruiters often do is just, okay, I need to fill roles. I'll do it however I was taught once or within this company if you're a very junior recruiter, and I'll just keep doing that. And then if they need something from a hiring manager, for example, filling in scorecards, you just say, I need the scorecard filled in, without explaining the why behind it. And I think the HRBP, right, human resources business partner, that sort of partner role already existed a long time or longer time. And I think the TA partner is becoming a more sort of swing at the moment. And it's definitely something I've been coaching my people on as well. Like, you really need to be that advisor that they come to for more than just the question, hey, I have a vacancy, can you fill it for me? But also ask you advice on what should be my talent pool, what should be the process, what sort of the bigger questions, just then fill this role for me, please. So yes, I definitely think the partner role should become bigger.
How big is your team?
Including myself, we're at 6. Yeah, we have an intern, we have a talent coordinator or rec ops, and then 3 recruiters.
Where the talent acquisition, like industry or the space, is shifting from your perspective?
I mean, you can't go around sort of AI, right? That's what everybody is talking about constantly. And I definitely see applications of AI. We use an AI note taker, for example. That is a huge help in our hiring efforts. So I definitely believe in AI, especially for repetitive tasks of scheduling, note-taking, those kind of things. I do think, at least I hope, that we're going to talk more about what AI enables us to do. And for me, that is candidate experience. I'm a firm believer that you win the race with candidate experience, not with tooling. But that tooling will enable you to focus more on that candidate experience. And I would love for us to talk a little bit more about that rather than, hey, this is a new AI tool, or you can use this to build your own AI agent. I would love to see more talks going around what it enables us to do rather than just the AI in itself, if that makes sense.
How you can improve on the candidate experience?
So for me, personalization is something that's really important, especially in an AI age. What we already get from our candidates, sometimes they feel like they've been rejected by an AI bot, which is not the case at all. For all you people out there, we don't do that. But we do have templates, right? So we can't write a personalized email for every candidate. We have 60,000 applicants a year. We can't do that. We also can't ask that of our hiring managers in the hotels. But the people already have that feeling with us, even though we don't do it, really tells me that personal contact really is valued. And that's only something a person can do. So I think that's really important, together with transparency in your process. For me, those two are are key.
Okay. And how you can do that at scale, and it's still super personalized.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't have the answer for you yet, in all honesty. That's something we need to figure out this year, how we can best do that. For my team, it's not easy, but it's relatively easy. But how we're also going to make that happen for all the hiring managers in our properties, that's definitely something that's on my roadmap for this year to figure out. We are already training them and explaining them sort of the importance of personalized feedback and giving feedback in general. But what you still see is in our candidate surveys that feedback is still one of the points that we need to improve on the most. So that's definitely in our interview training, for example, one of the things that we've added sort of focused on more, because that is something that local leadership and also hiring managers need to understand more.
What's so special about the social hub?
I think what makes us special is the fact that we really have a hybrid hospitality concept. So it's not just for hotel guests like you and me going away for a weekend, for example, on a vacation. It's not just for students. It's not just for people that want to have a place to work. It's not for people that just want to have a bite or a drink. It's for all those people combined. You don't see that often, and it's really something that we've captured, I think, in one concept. So I think that's something that really makes us stand out.
Okay, and for the ones who wants to actually join the company, what type of person will succeed in this culture?
A resilient person, I think. I think one of the things I mentioned before, right? We're an ever-changing a company, and I think that's really cool if you are entrepreneurial and you see opportunities and things that you can change and influence. But it's not for everybody, because it also it requires you to adjust, because things are changing often. I think in my previous company, one of the things they often said is the only constant is change. Yeah. And I think that's the same here as well. So I think resilience, entrepreneurship, curiosity in people around you and your colleagues, because I think what often happens in sort of startup, scale-up type companies, an understanding of you can't do it alone, you have to do it together, is really important, and that's definitely something that's really valued here as well. Okay.
Did you experience the mishires in your career?
Oh yes, I experienced mishires in my career, yes.
Okay. Can you tell more about maybe the biggest one? You don't have to mention the names.
Okay, good. No, so yes, I mean I've even had them in my own team. I think for me that's, like I mentioned before, right? I'm an output kind of guy. So in the end, the outcome and the end result is the most important thing. But what I also mentioned is that I'm a firm believer of being a TA partner, and that also says something about how you do certain things, right? It needs to be in an advisory kind of way, and if you make an agreement, you have to stick to those. So I need to be able to rely on people. I'm a manager I'm the opposite of a micromanager. I want to give people in my team full trust that I trust them to do what they need to do. But if I then see that that's not happening, that's when things become problematic.
Okay. And how to actually reveal all of these traits, the qualities during the interviews, so you're not going to do the mishire.
Yeah, it's always, especially, well, the thing is, when I'm talking to a hiring manager and we set up a process and they want to have like an extra round or we do an extra thing or here and there, I'm like, come on, we've set up a process. Why are we changing things mid-process? And then when you become a hiring manager yourself, like, okay, 2 rounds, that's really short to sort of get the best out of a candidate. Yeah. I think what's really important for me is case studies. I think that's where they add a lot of value in the process. At the same time, I don't think you can fully eliminate bad hires. They're always going to happen. You can have a process that's structured, that has cognitive ability tests, that have personality tests, case study, a test day. You're still going to have a bad hire from time to time. It's just going to happen.
Okay. When it comes to your team, if we're going to ask them what they think about the Jeroen in one word, what do you think? What would be the word?
Old. It's probably one of the things that I would say. My current team.
You don't look like old.
No, I mean, I'd like to think that they say what I just described. That I'm a very approachable, ready for them kind of manager. So my door, we don't have doors as you saw right during the tour, but my door is always open. for them, and that I gave them sort of the trust that in their abilities and that they support them fully in what they need to do. I also think that they would probably say that I'm quite opinionated. So there are not a lot of things that I don't have an opinion on. So that's, I would assume, probably also something that they would say.
Okay. And if we're going to actually ask your manager, the executives, the same question, what would be this word? How they would describe you?
I think similar. I think they would say that I'm a sort of energized, optimistic, innovative person that should not forget to communicate effectively. And that effective communication sometimes also means that the opinion or the view of somebody else can also be the right view, although it's not their expertise. And that's something I need to remind myself of from time to time.
Okay. Jeroen, let's imagine that your CEO came to you and said, we're going to cut the budget twice when it comes to the TA, but we're going to stay with the same goals. What would be your reaction?
First, I'm going to be non-verbal probably, and you can probably scoop it off my face that I don't agree with that. There's two approaches to that, I think. I think on the one hand, I would say then probably you need to find a different head of TA that believes in this approach, because I don't. I don't believe that with half the budget or half the budget with the same hiring goals that's feasible. We have a very talented team, but we're also very busy. And with fewer people or less budget, they're going to be even more busy, and it's not doable. Especially not now that we're focusing more on quality of hire and making people stay here longer. I don't believe that's the right approach. So that's one thing, and of course the underlying message would be, hey, let's see how we can find a way where we are mindful of cost, but we're not cutting everything. So that's one thing. On the other hand, at the same time, I was talking about effective communication, right? Putting your heels in the sand often also doesn't help. So I would also try to then steer the conversation into a way, like I said, being mindful of cost, but then how can we then still achieve the same hiring goals? Or how can we distribute work differently, for example, to still get to the preferred outcome? So yeah, a bit of a mixed approach, I guess.
Okay. What was the fastest hiring you did in this company? From the job intake till the signed offer?
Well, so we're in hospitality, so sometimes we already have somebody at ready, for example. So it's a one-day process, so people already know. So a lot of the hiring in the hotels also through network, right? So that goes really, really fast. In a support hub, that's of course different, because here we can rely less heavily, I guess, on that network, because the skill set that is required is sometimes slightly different. I'm not saying, by the way, that the people in our hotels are not skilled. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. But I would have to check the data. Sometimes can go really fast, because we just have, well, like I said, entrepreneurial sort of proactive hiring managers that already have done quite a bit. But we also have very slow process where the intake wasn't conducted strong enough, and then the role is open for almost a year because the profile keeps changing mid-process, and oh no, we're actually not looking for this. So it can be both of those situations, really.
Okay. Are there any metrics you're keep tracking? Maybe 3-4 of them for the whole department?
Yeah. So time to fill, time to hire is really important. The pass-through rates is one that I find important. We're now actively focusing on the quality of hire, which is an impossible metric to get right, but we're trying. And one of the things those two other things are really important. One is probably not a surprise, is candidate experience. So that's a metric that's very important to me. And the other one is hiring manager satisfaction. We send out service for that as well. So those two are. So in the end, I don't care about the time to fill, time to hire at all. as long as the candidate experience metrics and the hiring manager metrics are positive. So
Okay.
if you spend half a year on finding the absolute gem in the market, for example, but your hiring manager is super happy with your work, fine. If you do it in 10 days, but your hiring manager's like, yeah, but the intake was shit and it was difficult to get a hold of the recruiter, etc., then I prefer the 6 months. So the experiences from both hiring managers and candidates are more important than the other metrics and KPIs.
Okay. And now, if we're going to move with you maybe towards the 2027, let's imagine that we're there already.
Ooh.
You and your team.
Yeah.
And you are living your perfect week. Can you just describe maybe the whole week from perspective of the team, technology, processes, how everything is functioning?
Yeah, so then on Monday we have our weekly kickoff where we discuss like, hey, what is your focus going to be for this week? What are the blockers that are keeping you from success? And what are the new roles that have been requested that we expect to hire for? And does it make sense to put them with the typical recruits because we've divided the hiring up into regions? And if not, how can we redistribute? And then throughout the week, I would have contact with our regional directors of operations. So basically, managers that are managing a set of hotels, so managing a region basically, to see what their forecast is for the next month, for example, because that changes sometimes. I would talk to them about the metrics we just discussed. So inflow, time to hire, time to fill, but especially also the candidate experience and hiring manager experience to see what we need to tweak and change. We have our weekly recruitment meeting every week where we discuss things that are top of mind and are important to discuss. And I also have my weeklies on a Tuesday because we're all here at the office. I speak with my manager to keep understanding what he expects of me, but also to understand what's happening in the wider organization because he has a broader role than I do. And probably me and our RecOps specialist will discuss, hey, is the current TA tool belt still sufficient? Do we need to make any tweaks, any changes? Do we need to add a tool? Do we need to sunset a certain tool in the future? And together with him, we're looking at data as well, also to share with the team internally to see where we need to make changes and improvements as well.
Okay. Is there any magic tool you have then?
Um,
or you would love to have? Maybe it doesn't exist even now.
Ooh. No, well, I mean, I would love to have, and not necessarily for my team, but for ops, like a sort of a shortlist, AI shortlisting kind of tool, which a lot of ATS nowadays are offering or will soon offer, where it's easier to see what the fit is between a profile and the job requirements, to just focus on the top 10, 20%, for example, first, because volume, especially in ops, is very high. So that's something I think that will give us a lot of time back.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that I would love to have, I think.
Okay. There is one thing which I keep hearing from the executives.
Okay.
And you can totally disagree with that as well. But I'm quite curious about your opinion.
Yeah.
So they keep saying that when it comes to the recruitment teams, they keep wasting the time of the company, of the candidates, of everyone around. So we don't see a lot of value recently. So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I disagree with that. I mean recruitment. So I think that's the only correct answer to give. I think it comes back to the thing I mentioned before, right? The talent acquisition partner. And again, there's two things there as well. I think there are a lot of shitty recruiters out there that are just basically moving boxes, but then people. And they don't really care about process, about stakeholders, anything like that. So I definitely understand why certain hiring managers have bad experiences and therefore say that everyone in the TA space is wasting time. I definitely see that. I also see, like I said before, that a lot of recruiters are just doing the same trick over and over again and are not necessarily very curious to learn more about what's out there in the market, what kind of tools you can use, what kind of processes you can do, what kind of improvements you can make, right? So there's definitely that as well. And because hiring managers are doing interviews themselves, they think that they are recruiters. but there's more to recruitment than just doing interviews, right? So I definitely think we're an expertise as well. We add a lot of value in advising them, in offer management, in candidate experience, especially in candidate experience, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I would strongly disagree, although I understand where they're coming from. Yeah.
When it comes to the team efficiency, you said that you are a team of 6 people.
Yeah.
How many roles you are actually handling within a year, in average?
So now, at the moment, we have 180 roles open.
Okay.
But then again, it comes back to the decentralized structure. We hire for around 25% of those roles from start to finish, and the other 75% is handled by the people in the hotels.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that then that calculates back to roughly 40 roles that we're hiring for currently, a little bit more, 45, I think, divided
Mm-hmm.
over the 3 recruiters, so 12 per recruiter on average, I would say.
Okay.
12, 15, between 12 and 15 on average.
Is it a good balance?
It's a challenging balance. It's doable, especially because in the hotels, a lot of the profiles are similar. It's not that one hotel has 5 roles that are different from 19 of the other hotels or 20 of the other hotels, so that doesn't happen often. So that makes it relatively easy to understand the role, although, of course, there are changes per region and per country.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sometimes a struggle to also focus on things outside of just hiring. So it is a challenge. It's doable, but it's challenging. Yeah.
Okay. And now when it comes to the role of the head of TA,
Yeah.
is there a path towards the head of people
For me or in general?
in general?
I think it depends on which country, company you work at. I think if it's your ambition and you're in a lucky position that you start with a company that's still in a startup or early scale phase, then it's a possibility, because then the roles are not as boxed in, I think. In here, for example, or in Debt, where I worked before, I don't think that's possible. In Travelbird, for example, I did see it happening, that the head of TA became the CPO in the end, with 2 steps in between. So I think it's difficult. In general, I think it's difficult to make that step, because there's so much more. Like I said in the beginning, right? TA it's amazing and it's challenging and it's a lot of fun, but it's also TA, and there's a lot more as head of people that you have to consider. So I think it's difficult.
Okay. When it comes to the whole space of the people, like HR and TA, we can maybe combine them both. What is the biggest disappointment you observe, and why is it?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I think what I mentioned before, the sort of the over-reliance on AI is currently a bit of a disappointment for me, that you can't turn a page or go to a meeting or meetup and everybody has their mouth full of AI. I think that's a big disappointment, for me at least personally at the moment. And I think, not that I experienced it recently per se, but I think what you see in leadership in general often is that a lot of people move into a leadership role just because they were the longest sitting recruiter or HR person. And I believe that that's the worst reason why you should be in a leadership position, because being a good leader and being good at your job are 2 totally separate things. I've seen the best recruiters being the worst, absolute worst sort of leaders. So that sometimes, what I'm trying to say is, I think sometimes people stepping into a leadership role can have a bit of a more conscious thought about, hey, is this really for me? Or am I just doing it for the title, for the pay, because it's the normal step to make as well. So I think those 2 for me.
Can you describe the perfect head of TA?
No, I probably couldn't, because it really depends on your approach, right? I mean, there's people out there that are way more data-driven than I am, for example. I see the added value of data, definitely, but I'm not the most data-driven person or data-driven TA leader out there. For me, the human aspect and the people aspect, also for the people in my team, is way more important. So for me, if I would describe a perfect leader or TA leader, that would be what I would focus on. But you'll probably also speak to people that are saying like, yeah, but we can't go around automation or data or tooling or whatever. Which fair, but that's not necessarily my go-to always. So it really depends what kind of person you are as well. It needs to fit who you are, because otherwise it will look like you're constantly in a play or in a TV show and you're trying to pretend somebody you're not.
Okay. Let's say a super fresh head of TA is watching right now.
Yeah.
What would be your advice?
Really, really, really understand the business that you're working in, and really understand where you can add value as a TA team, and also really understand the language of your stakeholders, because the language of your stakeholders is not fill in a scorecard. The language is the language that they would use in their day-to-day, and the language is what they focus on a day-to-day basis. So in a hotel, for example, you need to focus on guest and guest experience, not scorecard, ATS, AI note taker. They don't care about that kind of stuff. So I think really immersing yourself in the company and not being afraid to ask what you think might be sort of silly questions, I think that's by far the most important thing.
Okay. What's the difference between the senior recruiter and the head of TA?
Well, obviously your scope. I think, at least how I see it, it's a difficult question actually. I think from a senior recruiter, I would expect you to be able to take a step back on your own, let's say, vacancy portfolio, and really understand like, hey, this is what my part of the business really needs, and this is how I can best service them. A head of TA needs to be able to take even a step back further, and not just think about what would my actions do for a vacancy or my region or whatever, but really about what does my action mean for the team and for the wider organization. And what I mentioned before, as an individual contributor, you go on vacation, you close your laptop, and that's it. And as a head of TA, that's where, yeah, your responsibility is still kind of there. So yeah, I would say that's how I would view that.
Thanks, Jeroen. So we're gonna play a game.
Okay.
Super classic. Rock, scissors, paper.
Okay.
You're gonna call.
Yeah.
And the best of three.
Okay.
No, not the best of three. Who's gonna actually reach first the three wins?
Okay.
Basically the winner. So
Okay.
the winner will get, if you're winning, then you will get a very special extra hoodie.
Okay.
Tailored for you.
I love hoodies.
Yes. If I'm gonna win, then you give it the proper chance to pilot the Avery.
Okay. That's fine. That's a win-win. So that's fine. I played against my daughter and I lost every time. So
can be the case. Let's see.
Let's see
but
if I do better. How do you do it? It's on three?
Yeah.
Okay.
You count.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
Okay, 1-0.
Okay. Aye.
That's it.
You win. Congrats.
But still, hoodie's coming.
Yes. I love hoodies.